Welcome everybody to another video of Ancient Greece Reloaded. Today we will talk about the famous Cadmus, a hero, a brother of Europa and the founder king of Thebes. By the way, if you like the video, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so as to stay tuned for upcoming videos. In antiquity, Thebes was a rival city to Athens and Sparta and would normally be the antagonist to whichever of those two city-states was in the dominance at the time. Although Thebes would not reach the heights of Athens or Sparta, it would be a very influential city, until 335 BC when it stood against Alexander the Great, in which case the city was destroyed. Of course, Thebes would be rebuilt, but would never subsequently recover to its previous heights. Historical facts mix with mythology, and as with most cities of ancient Greece, there is a myth to the founding of Thebes, a myth that starts with Cadmus. Cadmus, aka Kadmos pronounced in Greek, was the son of King Agenor and Queen Telephassa of Tyre, and was therefore brother to Cilix, Phoenix and Europa. Europa would be abducted by Zeus, and so King Agenor dispatched his sons, Cadmus, Cilix and Phoenix, and his nephew, Thasos, to recover his daughter. It was of course an impossible task, and none of the brothers would ever return to Tyre. Phoenix would stop his search in North Africa and founded part of Phoenicia. Cilix would build the town of Cilicia in Asia Minor, and Thasos would give his name to the island of Thasos. Cadmus would have his own adventure though. Cadmus would travel across the Mediterranean, stopping off on the island of Callisti, aka Thera/Santorini, and then went to Samothrace, before eventually reaching the Greek mainland. Landing upon mainland Greece, Cadmus sought out the advice of the oracle of Delphi about where his sister might be found. The advice given was not what Cadmus might have expected. The oracle told Cadmus that his sister is safe, to forget about his father's quest, and instead Cadmus should establish his own city. The location of the new city would be determined by following a cow with a half moon on its flank, and then building the city where the cow would rest. Departing from the oracle, Cadmus soon located the cow he was destined to follow, and with his small retinue set out in pursuit of it. It proved to be a long journey, but eventually the cow came to the area of Viotia, and eventually the cow came to rest. Deciding it was appropriate to sacrifice the cow to goddess Athena, Cadmus dispatched two of his companions, the Ladon and Seriphus, to the nearby Ismenian spring for water. Unbeknownst to Cadmus, the spring was the sacred spring of Ismenus, a spring of Ares, and one which was guarded by a deadly serpent, the Ismenian dragon. When his men failed to return from gathering water, Cadmus went to the spring, finding his men dead, and Cadmus sought revenge upon the serpent. An epic fight between man and serpent ensued, but eventually Cadmus won by killing the serpent. Killing the serpent though would cause further problems for Cadmus, and in penance of Ares, Cadmus was forced to spend 8 years in the servitude of the god. In some versions of the tale, the period of servitude started immediately, and in others it occurred at a later time. Cadmus had discovered the perfect site to build a city, but now, with most of his retinue dead, he had not much power to build the city. Nevertheless, goddess Athena having been pleased by the sacrifice made of the wandering cow, she would come to Cadmus' rescue. Athena told Cadmus to sow half of the teeth of the serpent. Cadmus did as the goddess instructed, and from the teeth a large number of fully grown armed men emerged. Fearing for his life, Cadmus threw a stone amongst the men, and the men started fighting amongst themselves. Eventually only 5 men were left. These 5 men would be known as the Spartoi, and it was they who would assist Cadmus in the building of the new city, and subsequently the Spartoi would become the ancestors of the prominent families of Thebes. The remaining teeth of the serpent were given to Athena, and they would eventually make their way to Colchis, and become a danger that Jason would have to face during his adventures. Cadmus and the Spartoi would build up the city around a citadel, and the city would be known as Cadmeia. To honor the creation of the city, Zeus and Athena arranged for the marriage of Cadmus and Harmonia, although in some stories the marriage occurred in Samothrace. Harmonia was no mortal princess though, for she was a minor goddess of the Greek pantheon, being the Greek goddess of harmony. Such a great honor was being bestowed on Cadmus. The wedding of Cadmus and Harmonia was attended by many gods and goddesses, and the muses were said to have sung at the wedding feast. parallels between the marriage of Cadmus and Harmonia and that of Peleus and Thetis are of course obvious. The marriage of Cadmus and Harmonia would bring forth a number of children, and his children would have their own stories. Autonoe would become mother of Actaeon, Ino, who was transformed into a sea goddess known as Leucothea, Semele, the mother of Dionysus, and Agave, the mother of Pentheus, a future king of Thebes. Cadmus and Harmonia also had two sons, Polydorus, who was a successor to Cadmus as king of Cadmeia, and Illyrius, a son who gave his name to Illyria. Illyrius was not born in Cadmeia, for Cadmus and Harmonia would leave the city and travel to the borderlands of Greece, where in future the Illyrians were said to live. Cadmus would assist in a tribal dispute, settling the matter in battle, and subsequently became king of the tribes in this area. Thus, Cadmus now was considered the ancestor of the Illyrians and of course a Theban royalty. There is a final point to the myth of Cadmus, in which Cadmus, being deeply troubled by the ill fortune which clung to him as a result of him having killed the sacred dragon, one day he remarked that if the gods were so enamored of the life of a serpent, he might as well wish that life for himself. Immediately he began to grow scales and change in form. Harmonia, seeing the transformation, thereupon begged the gods to share her husband's fate, which they granted, based on Hyginus of course. In another version of the story, the bodies of Cadmus and his wife were changed after their deaths. The serpents watched the tomb while their souls were sent to the Elysian fields. In Euripides the Bacchae, Cadmus is given a prophecy by Dionysus, whereby both he and his wife will be turned into snakes for a period before eventually being brought to life among the blessed, aka in Elysium, the paradise of the Greek afterlife. As for the city that Cadmus founded, a couple of generations later, during the reign of Amphion and Zethus, the name of the city would be changed from Cadmeia to Thebes, in honor of Zethus' wife Thebe. The name Cadmeia would remain in use though, as it was passed on to the citadel of the city. Let us finish with the following saying: "Dishonest gain has short pleasures and long sorrows." The Philos of Sifnos. That being said, remember guys to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel, it would help us a lot. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for upcoming videos.